Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks. So usually when I make these videos, I actually script them quite heavily and they're usually very produced. But I want to try making them a little bit more live and relaxed and conversational. So I don't have a particular point to prove with Vancouver and this video, but I think that they are very worth talking about, not least because they are my team and they've been having an interesting start to their season. I will say the game against Edmonton that happened last night was a nice breath of fresh air, because up until that point it was a little concerning. And so Vancouver are now 5-5-0, which puts them 4th place in the Pacific Division, which is nice because a couple of days ago that's not where they were. But I don't think that it's a safe place for them to be whatsoever. Tomorrow they will be playing against the New York Rangers, which actually New York have been having a lot of their own issues, and then this is also a matchup against JT Miller as well. Obviously not the first one that they will have had. It's been quite a while that JT Miller's been off the team at this point, but I think especially with the conversation that's been persisting around Elias Pettersson, people are still really interested in seeing who wins out of those two. There seems to be almost this element of like, people are complaining about Pettersson or people have their concerns about Pettersson, but like, as long as he's better than JT Miller, then it's okay. And maybe he will be, but I don't know. I was happy with how Pettersson played against Edmonton. I mean, not least because he actually got some points, which is nice. But I think when we see elements of old Elias Pettersson, it's quite exciting because it means, oh, holy shit, the $11.6 million are actually going somewhere. And I don't mean to be mean. But obviously one of the biggest conversations with Vancouver right now is about their center depth. And if you're talking about center depth and concerns with center depth, you really don't want that concern to be at the depth of the top line. You really want your depth problems to be like depth problems and not surface problems. And unfortunately, the concerns in Vancouver have kind of been unique in that sense that it's our top line and our second line that have been the concern. But we will get onto that. It was an overtime win. That's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Especially when you consider the goal that was revoked, the Kiefer Sherwood goal that ended up being offside. Like, the thing with goals like that is that while on paper they end up not counting, you can still consider them as a factor in terms of how you're going to judge your own performance. And I think Kiefer Sherwood especially has been monumental this season so far. And the one thing I really love about Kiefer Sherwood is that guy was undrafted in the NHL. And I love seeing somebody who was undrafted end up kind of becoming one of the star players of like a major team. So that's fucking fun. Anyway, I made a bunch of notes because there are certain things that I really, really want to talk about regarding this team. Let's start with expected goals and goals above expected. Okay, I've made a bunch of notes. Actually, let's move it to this monitor so I at least don't look like I'm looking over there. All right, at 5-on-5, Pettersson has the highest expected goals value and is operating at 0.2 over his expected goals. I will say, little asterisk. Firstly, actually, I got these stats yesterday. This was before the Edmonton game. So, you know, bear with me there. The other thing is the 5-on-5 with the expected goals. Fil Chytil is actually technically the highest, but we're not counting him for obvious reasons. If you want to look at who is the most surprising player, i.e. the person with the highest number of goals above expected, that's Max Sasson. That's probably not going to be a surprise to anybody, but he's playing at 2.301 goals above expected. And to me, that really backs up the reason why he's been playing at 2C since Chytil's injury, despite the fact that he actually doesn't have a lot of NHL games logged. That's going to be a really interesting thing for me, I think, as to whether or not that's going to continue, because obviously this ostensible search for a new center is really on the cards. But if Vancouver do end up trading or picking up a new center going in the 2C position and Sasson's like put down to 3C, knowing that we have someone who's getting so many goals above expected in the 3C position, actually kind of calms my nerves a little bit. So interestingly, I've made the note here as well that at 5-on-5, Quinn Hughes is 0.448 goals below expected. And I had questions about Quinn Hughes, and then he got put on injured reserve yesterday. So I think I have the same question that a lot of people have had regarding Quinn Hughes ever since that was announced last night. And that is that if Quinn Hughes is out with a lower body injury, how long has that lower body injury been going on for? Because he has seemed uncharacteristically slow, not really producing. Could it be that this injury, whatever it is, has actually gone back a little bit of time and we just haven't known about it, and that's been why Hughes has been a little slow? I don't know. It's kind of weird because obviously I think a lot of us have noticed that Quinn Hughes has been very frustrated. Like, there's been a lot of stick breaking, there's been a lot of all of these kinds of things, and it's had a number of people wonder what is going on with him. And yeah, maybe the answer to that is that he's injured, and that's the reason. And I would like for that to be the reason, because it means that once he comes back and he's fine, then he should be Quinn Hughes TM again, right? But I guess we'll see. Power play. Jake DeBrusk has got the highest number of goals above expected at 0.856. But then the next highest above expected is Quinn Hughes, which, you know, that suggests that he's having a much better time on the power play right now than he has at 5-on-5. And actually, I'm just going to check his points. So he has 6 assists, 1 goal. And 4 of the assists are on the power play, 2 of the assists are even strength, and the 1 goal is on the power play as well. Okay, so yeah, he's like doing really well in the power play right now, not so much at 5-on-5. And then when we look at the penalty kill, I mean, I've written the hero of the penalty kill is undeniably Kiefer Sherwood, 0.524 goals above expected. He's the only player to be exceeding his expected goals on the penalty kill. My concerns come with this next stat, and the stat that I'm about to talk about is shot attempts and shots on goal. And for me, this is a very eye-opening stat, and I originally was not gonna go super deep into this stat until I came across some interesting stuff. So one of the really big things that people have been complaining about at the beginning of this season is Evander Kane. A lot of people have been saying, like, we absolutely screwed up by trading, was it 2027 4th round pick for Evander Kane? All we did was free up cap space for Edmonton. Like, we literally, you know, did nothing for ourselves. He's slow. He's not blah, 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 blah. I don't necessarily agree with those takes. Evander Kane has the highest number of shot attempts on this team this season so far. And again, I got these stats yesterday before the Oilers game, but at that point in time, he had taken 39 shot attempts, and this was on 5-on-5. The highest first line forward for shot attempts is Connor Garland with 24. Hughes is second in the team with 36. So I'm just gonna read this little passage that I wrote because I went down a rabbit hole with these statistics that I found interesting, especially given Vancouver's situation right now. Okay, so Evander Kane is joint 31st in the entire NHL for shot attempts per game with 4.3. The next Canucks player, Quinn Hughes, is joint 51st with 4. The next Canucks forward is Fil Chytil at joint 119th with 3.3. The next non-injured forward for the Canucks in the entire NHL is Kiefer Sherwood at joint 180th with 2.9. The next Canucks top line forward is Connor Garland at 230th with 2.7. Elias Pettersson, the Canucks' the Canucks' most expensive player and star top line center, is joint 284th in the NHL for shot attempts with 2. So I continue on. For context, against other first line centers, Nathan MacKinnon is joint 3rd with 6.2. Jack Hughes is 6th with 5.8. Austin Matthews, despite the fact that he's going through the fucking shredder at the moment, he's 13th at 5.1. Jack Eichel is joint 31st with 4.3. So you can narrow this down even further to shots on goal per game, right? A shot attempt doesn't necessarily make it onto the goal. It could be anything. Shots on goal, right? These are like the actual could go in the goal. You don't need me to explain this shit. This looks even worse. Okay. So Kane remains to be the top Canuck at joint 30th with 2.1. Elias Pettersson drops to joint 380th with 0.9. Statistically, Pettersson is currently on track to shooting on goal just 73.8 times in the entire NHL season. In 2022 to 2023, his best performing season yet, he made 257 shots on goal and 489 total shot attempts. Now that number has probably changed slightly because of the Oilers game and he actually, you know, got a goal. Maybe it's tipped over 1.0 now. Crazy. But my whole kind of point with this is if Evander Kane is so bad and we got rid of him, who the fuck is taking the shots on this team? Like, not Fil Chytil, because I would be very surprised if he's coming back. And if he does come back, I would be very concerned. I'm not a doctor. I'm not part of this team. I don't even know what happened to him. But my layman opinion is that that man's career is probably done. It makes me very sad. It makes me especially sad knowing that he's like 3 years younger than I am. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but like, it's not going to be him. Okay, cool. Quinn Hughes is an option, but we're very fortunate that Quinn Hughes is an offensive defenseman, and it's great to have him on the team and him being such an offensive power, but we do need offensive power to come from our offense. Now, I love how Sherwood has been playing. I love that Garland has been like all in, but yeah. We have to be taking shots. And, yeah, like, if not Kane, then who? If not Kane, then who? So that's kind of one of my things with Evander Kane. Like, I get that people aren't super happy with him. He has a lot of, enemies and fans. Like, not necessarily personal enemies, but like, there are a lot of people who don't like him. And for various reasons, a number of which are legitimate. Look, that's not really my problem. Like, he is doing something that really no one else on the team is doing at the way that, or to the extent they should be. And that, I think, is notable. Now, there has obviously been a lot of conversation. I'm going to park the whole thing about Pavel Zacha with Boston. And kind of jump over that to the conversation about potentially getting Nazem Kadri. Now, I don't know how likely that is. Obviously, the whole situation with Nazem Kadri is that once he's reached his 1,000th game, which I think is maybe like 5 games away now, there is potential that Calgary will shift him. Calgary are having their own fucking whole host of issues right now, and it may be time for Kadri to find a new home. Now, he, up until this point, had a completely no move clause, but that changed this season. So now he just has a 13-team no trade. And the rumor, at least, that's been kind of substantiated, at least by Elliot Friedman, is that a lot of teams are trying to find out if they're on the no trade list, and Vancouver are not on the no trade list. So there is the option. The chance is there. I haven't looked into the cap space and all of that, because what you will learn by watching my content is that I don't fucking care about cap space. There are 2 things that I struggle to really, really care about in hockey. One of them is cap space. The other one is prospects. Like, when it comes to like really good prospects, okay, cool. Like, if you're going to be in like the first round, maybe the first half of the first round, I'll listen. But past that, I don't care. I care about the people who are there now. Anyway, so let's assume that that's a serious thing that we start considering as a team, is that Nazem Kadri is we need a center. In all situations, Nazem Kadri is joint 70th in the NHL with 5.4 shots per game, 2.6 of which are shots on goal. And to me, that really suggests that if we were to acquire him, it would change a lot about how many shots that we're actually taking, especially in that top 6. That is something that I would be very interested in seeing how that would change things in Vancouver. Now, obviously, that's not the only potential solution to any of this, right? You know, we could see Pettersson just turn it on and suddenly that changes. And yeah, we're at that point in the season where it's okay, yeah, well, it's only been 10 games. It's only been 11 games, but it's yeah, that's 10% of the season. You know, we only have 9/10 left. And you start picking up on things that are statistically relevant at this point in the season, even if it's still technically early. The other thing I really wanted to bring up was how shot attempts and shots on goal look in the power play. He's joint 106th for shot attempts per game on power play, and he has just 0.2 shots on goal per game on the power play. And I put a lot of exclamation marks after that, and I said, where is his offensive generation in the power play? 0.2 shots on goal per game on a power play is a disgusting statistic for an $11.6 million forward. And it could fall by the wayside and go ignored if Adam Foote had not explicitly said in an interview that he was specifically giving Elias Pettersson more special teams minutes, and therefore he was having fewer minutes at even strength. Now, I watched the Steve Dangle podcast episode where they were discussing this, and they actually went through and they were like, yeah, we checked the numbers and he wasn't playing special teams for 8 minutes. He was playing special teams for it was 5 minutes, 5.5 minutes, something like that. So I didn't personally go and check any of those numbers. I'm not here to pick a fight with Adam Foote about his use of math. But it's more that if you are going to claim, whether truthfully or not, that you're giving this player more time on special teams and that's why he's spending less time on ice at even strength, then you have to actually not have a statistic like this that suggests he's doing absolutely fuck all on special teams. I am going to check for the Edmonton game to see if it's made much of a difference. Both the Elias Petterssons had the exact same time on ice, 20 minutes 22. 5 on 4. Shot attempts. Okay, 3. Okay, whatever. Either way, he made 3 shot attempts on the power play. Great, because that is 2.8 more than 0.2. And I think that's an important difference. The other thing that I really wanted to kind of make note of as well, and this is sort of calling back to the whole thing with Chytil as well, is that Chytil's face-off win percentage was 47.4%, which was third of all players, with Sasson at 9th with 24.1% and Carlson at 12th with 20%. So without Chytil, we're going to have to see a really big improvement on face-offs, face-off win percentage, because Pettersson's kind of fine. He's not, I mean, he's no Bo Horvat, but he's fine. If Chytil is gone or if he's out, there needs to be some work done by the other centers for their face-off win percentage, particularly when we're talking about it in the offensive zone. Even combine that with the fact that at 5-on-5, there are only 3 players on the Canucks that have a Corsi 4 percentage above 50%, and that's the Abby line in Archie Ratu, Linus Karlsson, and Archie Baines. So I just get a little concerned that from an offense perspective, we don't necessarily have the upper hand in terms of our face-offs, and we don't necessarily have the upper hand in terms of having the advantage in the Corsi events that are happening on ice. I'm not trying to be a doomer, and I'm not really a doomer when it comes to hockey or sports in general. I'm usually a look on the bright side kind of person, and that hasn't really changed here. It's more identifying where some of the issues are. And for me, I just think that we have to be really, really diligent now that Chytil may not be around anymore. We don't know how long Hughes is going to have out and what state he's going to be afterwards. And while Pettersson looked good against the Oilers, are we going to get that Pettersson every single game? Because let me tell you, right at the beginning of the season, we said the same fucking thing. Oh my God, it looks like old Petey. And like the Let's Go Petey chant was really cute. And I would love to see more of that. But it's way too early to say that we are going to see more of it. And I've been burned by this fire before. So I don't know. I do think that against New York, I was going to say it's probably going to be a shoo-in. And then I realized that it's really unwise to make such bold claims because anything can go wrong. The Jets, after all, did just win a game in the NFL. Like, you truly never know. But New York are having a disastrous time, and that's a whole other shit show. I do want to say, very happy with Thatcher Demko. Like, all of the concerns last season and him having this struggle with the bounce back from his injury and then the back spasms, and it was like, oh my God, maybe Thatcher Demko truly is never going to return to form. Fuck that shit. That's my Vezina winner. Like, just so good. And I'm really, really happy with him. So happy with Sherwood. Really happy with our bottom six. I think it's kind of fascinating having a team that ostensibly has really good depth, but we can't actually say they have good depth because the top of the depth chart has the issue. Like, that just feels really bizarre. But I agree with a lot of people who I've seen who have said, like, if I just look at this team on paper, I would say that's a phenomenal team. And that does make me feel optimistic. For me, like, honestly, the biggest question right now is the Chytil hole. Like, what are we doing about 2C? Then worry about Elias Pettersson, because he clearly still has it in him. We just got to get the consistency, right? That's mostly a concern right now because we don't have a 2C. Anyway, those are my rantings and my feelings about the Vancouver Canucks so far. Let me know what you think and what you think of this kind of more relaxed podcasty, I don't know, style of doing a video like this. I constantly go back and forth on how I should be making this kind of content. I mean, for those who don't know, my primary thing is that I'm a music producer. I'm working on my debut album right now. And so I'm trying to balance the time that I can talk about hockey with actually like trying to get this really demanding project done as well. But you know, I'm an ex-professional sportscaster, so I just cannot help myself but talk about this fucking sport. I'm gonna try and continue to write little things on my blog, my Substack, which is just, you know, me rambling to nobody. So I'll link that down below. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Vancouver Canucks. How do you think we're gonna fare against the New York Rangers? And I will see you in the next video. All right, bye guys. Mwah.